Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is Monday, it is the live game review to Everton's 2-1 victory over Rotherham United at Goodison Park in the FA Cup. On Saturday. We never ever do it the easy way, do we? Just when you think, yeah, go out and beat these 4 or 5-0, go out and, win the game in half an hour and then take your best players off and let's have an easy Saturday afternoon. It really was a hard game of football to watch at 12 o'clock on a Saturday. Everton being taken to extra time. Obviously our quality showed in extra time. James Rodriguez showed his quality with that pass to Doucouré, who come on and just calm things down a bit. I think the irony with Doucouré coming on, which we will talk about later on in the stream, is that, I think he was brought on to sort of just see the game out in the last 10 or 15 minutes. He ended up playing an hour of football or something, and I think if he'd have played an hour from the start, it would have, we could potentially have been in a different situation, i.e. not playing extra time. But we're joined by Tom, T-Logic 1991, of course. As always, we're going to talk about this one, go through it in all of its not really glory, let's be perfectly honest with you. Listen, Tom, I pretty much summarised this one as that Everton started off quite well in terms of foot on the ball and controlling the game, as you'd expect, and we broke the deadline, 8 minutes in. It's a fantastic ball by Anthony Gordon, controls it well, slides it through to Cenk Tosun, and it's a really neat finish by Cenk Tosun, to be fair. I know there's been a lot of criticism of him in terms of his ability and not being good enough, but it was a really neat finish. But from that point on, pretty much for the rest of the game, certainly the rest of the 90 minutes until extra time, we were just absolutely dreadful, weren't we? I don't know whether we just fell asleep or we underestimated them or we thought, we don't really need to try here because we're already 1-0 up, but we became worse and they got more and more confident, and when teams get more and more confident they grow into games, and Rotherham started to have shots on target and started to get forward, and you could just see that the equaliser was coming at some point because we were just completely off the mark. It wasn't good enough, was it, ultimately, and considering we've played again another half an hour of football, which we didn't need to play 3 days before a tough Premier League game, which we now know we're missing 2 of our most important players. It wasn't great, was it?
Yeah, I mean, I think the first, like you said, the first 10 minutes of the game, I thought we played at a level where Rotherham will never probably get to. Yeah. Do you know what I'm saying? So we looked like the Premier League team, but it was quite detrimental, the first goal to us there, because all of a sudden we just stopped playing. Maybe it was sort of a mentality shift in the team that thought, all right, well, we can play. If we're playing to this amount of level, we should be able to play to an average level and beat these. But they sort of dropped the work rate as well and ultimately brought Rotherham into this game. And it was unwanted pressure really coming to the end, wasn't it? I think, you heard even through while the crowd noise was off, Coleman screaming at them on all can. And it was just... It looked like the inevitable was going to happen, didn't it?
Yeah,
really?
Yeah. To be fair, I'm surprised we didn't lose it.
Exactly. And you sat there thinking, this is just the way they go here. This is the way you could just feel it again. And fair play to them, they got it to extra time and got out of there. And then Ancelotti has clearly had a word with them, and then they come out and looked a completely different side in extra time, didn't he?
Yeah, no, spot on. And I think, like I said, sort of, and like you just mentioned there, I think our quality sort of started to show in extra time. Certainly when we brought on the likes of Abdoulaye Doucouré, who just settled down that midfield. I think Tom Davies and Andre Gomez had a really poor game. They really struggled, which is worrying. But they, I think, started to tire a little bit. Their fitness started to show. I don't think they'd play the game for a few weeks either because of postponements due to COVID and stuff. So I think that really took a toll on them. And like I said, our quality did sort of shine through. In extra time, look, we were okay, but it should never have taken to go to extra time. And obviously we did score in the 90 minutes again, and it was ruled offside. And there's been a lot of discussion about that, whether it was or whether it wasn't. But ultimately, like you said then, it pretty much had the inevitable written all over it, didn't it? And maybe if Rotherham had had a little bit more quality, and that's no disrespect to Rotherham. One thing I want to say before we go into this live stream a little bit further is I just want to say respect to Rotherham for turning up and actually giving us a game of football, because ultimately we weren't on it on Saturday. We really, really weren't. We were poor. We were really poor, and it seemed like from the 10th minute onwards, we just didn't really seem to care about the game, and it almost felt like, oh, it'll be alright because we'll beat these anyway. We're already 1-0 up, and maybe as a fan you sort of sit back, and 8 minutes in I'm sitting there going, is right, 1-0 already, they've not got anywhere near the ball, we're starting to console it. Anthony Gordon's already put in a fantastic assist. This should be a nice easy day, a walk in the park this. But I think that mentality maybe fed through into the players, and then all of a sudden, Rotherham are building some confidence, they're building some momentum, and they're starting to put pressure on us, and we could not deal with that. And it's quite worrying to see that level of performance. It sort of did just seem like going through the motions, like you said, Tom, and ultimately, look, when we're playing Premier League games against sides like Wolverhampton Wanderers on Tuesday, and we won't have the likes of Dominic Calvert-Lewin because he's got a hamstring injury, which we will go on to talking about, and we've got, Richarlison who may be a doubt, and obviously Alex Iwobi didn't massively impress the other day, although we've been impressed with him recently. He didn't massively impress against the side that he should have been impressing against. Yes, Cenk Tosun got a couple of goals, but got a goal and one disallowed, but realistically, is he good enough going forward? It's worrying. It really, really is, and I suppose ultimately, when you see the level of performance, certainly within the midfield, it doesn't bode very well, does it? Carlo's had his press conference today ahead of Wolves. The game preview to the Wolves game will be up just after this live stream, by the way, so look out for that one. But, he's confirmed that Alan, mightn't be back for another 10 or 15 days, and that's back in training. So it was a struggle, and ultimately, do you sort of think going into Premier League games now, we may be, I don't want to say it's going to be very tough to pick up points. You never know with this Everton team, do you, ultimately? Because look, we looked absolutely dreadful against Leeds and Burnley, and then turn up a week later and we beat a Chelsea side that were on decent form at the time. We beat a Leicester side who were on decent form. We beat an Arsenal side with the backs against the wall. So do you think it was just maybe sort of a momentum thing and us not getting ourselves up for the game, and maybe a little bit of disrespect to the opponent, and that'll be different tomorrow against Wolves? Or do you just think the lack of quality in the squad really, really showed?
Well, yeah, I think we all know the what Davis and Gomez, a centre midfield like that, can bring, and we've showed it. They can't even do it at a Premier League level, and then they've just showed us that they can't ultimately do it against the bottom sides in the Championship. They're just not the roles and the position and profile of midfielders that you want, really, is it? You've got them two are probably defensively inept, the pair in between them, but they're slow, lethargic. They always want time on the ball. Yeah. They always want to play the game at their speed, and also they're probably the mould of each of a similar player, really. When you take Allen and Decore out, we know that defensive bite and that sort of box to box midfield runner goes. Yeah. So you're left with two deep playmakers, really, who can't really get forward and join attacks and can't really defend. So they really showed a big weakness in that. And listen, we know how bad our squad is, our squad players, let's just say. And then you add down to the fact, like we spoke of last time, with like Coleman coming back off injury. Luka Dean was off the boil, but at least he's got minutes. Yeah. James Rodriguez started to play a little bit better than what he did against West Ham. So we're gradually going to get there, and like you said, the news of Calvert-Lewin, we were gonna get to this point, weren't we? Like you said to you off camera as well, it's probably a good thing that we got to January without even dealing with that, but now we've got to deal with it. So hopefully, maybe he plays the Richarlison up front, maybe that's the way forward.
If he's fit, he said he's a doubt as well. He'll have to be tested tomorrow.
Well, yeah, that's it. You see with Cenk Tosun, you've got to completely change your system and style, really, to suit him. You can't have him playing like Calvert-Lewin because he just can't do it. He's slow, lethargic, and he's not. He's sort of more like, in my eyes, like a poacher. Yeah. And he showed that against Rotherham. He's just a poacher. He just gets himself into positions where he just tries to score goals. But you're going up against the Championship team who's in the bottom three of the Championship, so I wouldn't really put much merit to that performance really, and just let's see how we go. I mean, it's a worrying thing, but like I said to you, I've said to you before, and our season's in the balance.
Yeah.
It's on literally a knife edge, whether it'll be a very good season or just an average season where you think this squad is just really bad and is a detriment to our progression.
Yeah, no, spot on, I agree, and like you said, you know, again, we are very, very lucky ultimately to have got to this point with Dominic Calvert-Lewin not picking up any injury, and it was always going to be a hamstring injury. As soon as I heard the words come out of Carlo Ancelotti's mouth that Dominic Calvert-Lewin is unavailable for this game, the journalist asked why, but I knew it before he'd even mentioned it. I thought hamstring injury, because he's played that much football. He hasn't been able to be given a rest, not only because we haven't got anybody that's anywhere near the quality of him, but we haven't even got anybody that can step in and do the job. Not saying, you know, somebody that comes in as a like-for-like replacement, but somebody that you trust to put in and go, right, okay, Dom can have a game out today, or he can have a couple of games out. Even the early cup games, Dominic Calvert-Lewin was playing in, and Moise Keane played in the games against Fleetwood and Salford, but he didn't impress in them either. So Dom's played an awful lot of football this season, and Carlo even said in the press conference today, listen, Dominic Calvert-Lewin had this injury against West Ham, but he went and played 90 minutes because he wasn't really sure what the injury was, because he'd never had that type of injury before, and that ultimately has done him worse, and now we want him to recover 100% so it doesn't continue to reoccur. And, you know, in an ideal situation, in an ideal world, you'd be able to go, yeah, fine, Dom's played a lot of football, he's been brilliant, sound, we take him out and we put, you know, X in, or we put Y in, and they can step in and do a job. Mightn't be as good of a job as Dom can do, but they can do a job, they can get us goals. And look, I know Cenk Tosun scored a couple of goals, or scored a goal, sorry, and had one disallowed on Saturday, and, you know, his goal was a decent finish, to be fair, it was a good chip, but like Tom said, I completely agree. You have to completely change your style of football and change your style of play when you've got Cenk Tosun in the side. He's not got a lot of pace whatsoever. He's not going to work as hard as Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He's not as good in the air as Dominic Calvert-Lewin. In fact, we need to be probably 10 times more creative than we are with Tosun on the pitch than when Dom's on the pitch. And look at Dominic Calvert-Lewin's last 3 or 4 Everton performances. He's had no creativity. He's had nothing. Now you could say, okay, well, we haven't had Dean there, and now he's back, and James is coming back, and blah, blah, blah. And that's fair enough. But what I'm saying is Dom's work rate off the ball is absolutely fantastic. Dom can put in a man-of-the-match performance without scoring or assisting because he works that hard. And, you know, again, he's a target man. Ultimately, you put a cross into the air and Dominic Calvert-Lewin's going to be on the end of it. But he hasn't been able to get on the end of crosses because there's not been any service. And with Cenk Tosun, you've got to do a lot more, and you've got to put it on his plate a lot more than you do with Dominic Calvert-Lewin, I feel anyway. We have got a donation in the chat. Big thanks. Everton was first. It donated £5. We will get into the live comments in a moment, by the way. He says, hi lads, currently watching while on a 12-hour RAF guard shift. Hope you're both well. Is right, mate. Is right. Respect to you. We're both very, very good, thank you. At least it's a win that we're talking about anyway. It doesn't feel like one. It's the weirdest win ever. But obviously Carlo made a few changes to the side. Tom, he made a couple of changes to the back line. Obviously, Seamus Coleman was brought in at right back, which wasn't a massive surprise considering he's played there, you know, a couple of times since he's returned from injury. Luca Dean come back into the side, which I think ultimately was good on reflection. He wasn't great, Luca Dean. You could see there was times that he struggled. He certainly got exposed a couple of times defensively, but again, he's been out for a long, sustained period of time. And ultimately, I'd rather him have had a tough game on Saturday and then come into the game on Tuesday, tomorrow against Wolves, you know, with more match fitness and a little bit sharper than him sit out a Saturday and then come into tomorrow's game and perform like he did on Saturday, because he did struggle at times. Ben Godfrey was at centre-back next to Michael Keane. Obviously, Yerry Mina dropped out. You had a midfield of Gomez, Tom Davis, and I can't even remember who was the other one. Okay, we'll give it its 10 seconds then. There we go. I think we're back on. Sorry about that. Stream cut out on its usual madness, which we all know happens regularly. But like I said, Carlo made some changes. Ben Godfrey slotted in at right back, at centre back for one of the first times since he's joined the football club, to be fair, which is mad considering he was brought in as a centre back. Seamus Coleman stays at right back, Dean back at left back, Gordon at left wing, and then obviously Hammers playing in more of a central role. What did you make of the changes then? We'll start with Luca Dean. Obviously, he's been out for a long time. Listen, he desperately needed the game time. I think we've all sort of, realised that and admitted that, and I'd rather him have put in I wouldn't say it was a bad performance, but just not what his usual level is in that game, rather than putting that in against Wolves. It was great to have him back, obviously. It was fantastic to have him back. We've really, really missed his creativity going forward. Do you think it was important for him to get minutes then and sort of just flush out that sort of lack of game time recently and then go into tomorrow's game fully fit, or would you maybe have left him out for this one?
No, I agreed with the fact that he come in. I mean, if he needs that match fitness, where else is he going to get it?
Yeah.
And I think you wouldn't suggest it would be up to a level of a Premier League game, but it's just getting that minutes into his legs again. I mean, yeah, he never had a great game. Was his defensive duels, he only had 6 and he only won 2, like 33% success rate of them. So, when you look at the other ones, comparing it when his last game was against Fulham.
Yeah.
In November. So it's a long time out not to be playing football, and he come from surgery as well. So yeah, I mean, it was the right time to put him in, because if you look at beforehand, we started struggling then in previous games with our left back. I'm not saying like he was horrendous, but Godfrey just was very good defensively, but he showed not a lot, going forward. Yeah. So it's time to bring probably our second most creative player in the team back.
Yeah.
So it was the perfect time to do so, and hopefully he improves for the Wolves game tomorrow.
Yeah, spot on. He's so vitally important, and that's something I was mentioning certainly when talking about Ben Godfrey. I think Ben Godfrey's done a fantastic job since joining Everton Football Club, certainly when asked to play at left back, but the reality of that situation is Ben Godfrey is a centre back playing left back, so he's very defensive minded, and you know what, he was absolutely fantastic. And in certain games maybe we needed that defensive stability of just 4 centre backs along a back line, because your full backs then aren't really focusing on going forward, but they're very, very good defensively, because we were able to hit Chelsea on the counter, we were able to hit Leicester on the counter attack. But realistically, and I've seen a couple of tweets when Luca Dean was out, and it was like, well, what do we do now with Ben Godfrey when Luca Dean returns? And that's a conversation that Carlo Ancelotti has to obviously have with himself, and that's a situation that Carlo Ancelotti has to sort. But Luca Dean absolutely has to be playing in this Everton team, because going forward, creatively, he's absolutely fantastic. He provides so much to this side, and not only directly does he provide to this team in terms of crossing and assisting and getting balls into the box, but he also helps out Richarlison, who can then come inside and Dean can overlap him, and Richarlison then doesn't mind doing the bad work. Maybe Richarlison's poor performances recently have been down to Luca Dean not being there and him not having that support in attack going forward, and then not being able to sit back and sort of do the defensive work and know that Luca Dean's going forward and doing the attacking work. Maybe James Rodriguez. For me, James Rodriguez cries out for a Luca Dean, because he always is looking for that over-the-top ball to the left-hand side. If you watch any of Everton's first 4 or 5 Premier League games of the season, the amount of times James Rodriguez gets that ball on the right-hand side, switches it to his left foot and pings it to Luca Dean, and the amount of balls Luca Dean puts into the box from that, which either meets Dominic Calvert-Lewin on the head, or, it's a chance created from it, it's constant. Whereas when when James Rodriguez was having the ball on the right hand side, and he was looking out to maybe an Iwobi or a Bernard, it's not the same. Equally with a Godfrey, he's not going to make that run, down the wing, because he's focused on being a defensive fullback, and he done very well at that. But I agree, Luca Dean absolutely has to be in this Everton team, and I would listen. The worry and the I suppose the caution was always going to be that if he'd have picked up another knock, or they'd have gone in a little bit physical on him and they'd have roughed him up a little bit, and he'd have picked up a further injury, which is always going to be the worry. It'll be the worry when Dom comes back to fitness. Is he going to go out and get another knock? But ultimately, Luca Dean needed the game time, and like you said, Tom, he wasn't going to get the game time anywhere else, was he? Yeah. Rather than put in a sort of, I don't know, a half performance to his standards against Rotherham in the FA Cup, and do it tomorrow against Wolves, because let's be honest, he's playing against Wolves either way tomorrow, because he provides us so much threat going forward.
Well, like you've just mentioned, though, it just clearly shows the depth that we've got in the team that is lacking.
Yeah.
Like, This last season we were saying we need a backup left back. We need one. So they already were bringing in Nkounkou, and they were already thinking about but the fact that Nkounkou impressed in training and things like that, the club decided not to go and press on for that.
Yeah.
But if you're not gonna, if the manager isn't trusting him, then you've got to go and get that, haven't you?
Yeah.
You can't. It's square pegs round holes, and it's been like this for a lot of seasons now.
Yeah.
So they've got to sort of work out what they want to do with these young lads. Like, do they want to just play these Nkounkous, the Gordons and things? If not, then you're going to detriment their progress and their development. So they're going to have to go on loan, and then you're going to have to get players in and spend the money on these 25 to 30-year-olds that Ancelotti seems to want.
Yeah. No.
And trust.
Yeah, spot on. Listen, spot on. I agree, and like you said, you know, the lack of depth in this squad is quite blatantly clear, and you're seeing even from the press conference today, some people saying, oh, well, who plays tomorrow then? If Richarlison's out, is it Bernard? Is it Gordon? Look, I think, you know, Gordon started really well. I want to move on to him in a second, Tom. He started really well, but he phased out the game in the same ways that he phased out the game when he started against, was it West Ham, or it might have been the game prior to that. He just sort of faded out a little bit and he struggled. And again,
I think it was Sheffield United.
Sheffield United, yeah. Sorry, it was Sheffield United, yeah, when Richarlison was out. And then again, a lot of people on Twitter said, oh, this shows why Gordon isn't in the starting 11 or why he isn't getting the opportunities. And I understand it, but, you know, again, probably does need at least a run in the team before you can fairly judge that. But he come in again yesterday. Anthony Gordon. You know, I wouldn't say as expected because you don't expect it with Carlo Ancelotti. But again, obviously Richarlison had been confirmed out, so we sort of had an inkling it'd either be him or Bernard. Bernard didn't impress against West Ham when he was given the opportunity to start. Anthony Gordon steps in. Obviously, a fantastic start to the game. Really, really good assist. Picking the ball up in the middle, picking the ball up on the wing, cutting into the middle. Plays a brilliant ball to Cenk Tosun, and I don't want to say from that point on he didn't really do much because the team didn't really do much. To be fair, within that first 8 minutes we were brilliant, including Anthony Gordon. After that we were really bad and Anthony Gordon didn't do much. What did you make of his performance then? Do you think it sort of shows why he isn't involved as much as maybe some people want him to be? Or do you just think it was, it sort of matched the rest of the team and that it was quite lethargic and there wasn't much energy and there wasn't much quality on the ball? Do you think he struggled personally, or do you think he was just, it was because the rest of the team just weren't putting in a great performance?
No, I think he sort of played like a typical under-23 player. I think these lads who play in under-23s think that they've got all the time in the world and they don't have to put a shift in off the ball. They just think they can get on the ball, go do some nice little footwork, and that's your job done. But it's not.
Yeah.
It's you're looking for that overall Premier League player, and that's what's something that Gordon's obviously going to have to learn quickly. But it's hard because you know the abilities there. You've seen it in his first two. He turned. I can't remember that. I think he turned the right back inside out and cut inside and took on 3 or 4 lads and was unlucky. Yeah, was unlucky, and that's what he shows you. And then he goes and grabs it. He sort of comes in inside a little bit, just turns him inside out again with a nice little drop of the shoulder and plays Tosun in. So he's got that ability, but you're just looking for a lot more, aren't you? And maybe at 19, you're expecting to. This is what I'm saying. Like the amount of months and months that have gone on where fans have been asking for Gordon, this sort of aura starts appearing then.
Yeah. This expectation.
And then this expectation comes of, oh, he's brilliant. He's he's up to the levels of what Barkley was and Rooney was when they first come out, and he's not. He's still developing physically. I mean, he's developed really well over the last year. Physically, you can see that. You can see pictures on Twitter and that he's putting the work in.
Yeah.
It's just now he's got to get game time.
Yeah.
So if you're not willing, if Ancelotti's not willing, and ultimately he's not willing to give him 10 games straight, then he's got to go out on loan.
Yeah.
But it can't just be a loan where he goes anywhere. You've got to sound out clubs, maybe in the top League One.
Yeah.
Get where he's going to play every week. It's not. it's not really an issue for me if he drops down 2 leagues, as long as he's playing game time and he can hone in his craft and put the shift in that you'd need to do in League One.
Yeah.
Maybe, and then you're looking at Championship, but you'd want him to go to a Championship side that plays good football, that allows him to come inside and does his best work, because that's what he is. He's like a a left wing 10, where he does his best work in between the lines. He's not lightning quick, but he's got that quick ability to shift his feet and get that yard away from players.
Yeah.
So I'd like to see something like that. And listen, if he doesn't come good, then you've got to sort of. I mean, if he doesn't come not good in a sense, I mean, as in if he doesn't become to the level that Everton want to go in terms of like Champions League, then you've got to make him the most valuable asset that you possibly can.
Yeah.
So if he goes to these teams like in Championship or in League and he develops and he's starting to show in signs of it, then teams will come in and pay these 8 million or something like that for him, and that's good for Everton. Do you know what I mean? And that's what you want the academy to start doing. I mean, you don't want him to be going down the route of Kieran Dowell and Kieran Dowell was a specific, probably very similar to what Gordon is.
Yeah.
Kieran Dowell used to come out with amazing things. Oh, freaking hell! But you hadn't seen him for like 80 minutes of the game.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. You've got to be involved a lot more than just these 2-3 minute quick spells. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Spot on.
Let's see how he goes. But I think the best thing for Gordon and for the club is he's got to go out on loan.
Yeah. Spot on, and maybe that's what Ancelotti's been seeing, as he's ultimately seeing the quality in patches, and he's never denied that, but maybe he's not seeing the work rate and the constant, battling off the ball, which is something that you do get from a Richarlison, for example. And I'm not comparing Anthony Gordon to Richarlison, by the way, but again, Richarlison's a player who, even when he is a bit frustrating in terms of his creativity or maybe losing the ball too easily, you get that defensive work that you get him battling, you get him working hard, something that Dominic Calvert-Lewin has really, really improved on recently. Not only his ability going forward, but when, again, like I said before, Dominic Calvert-Lewin can go a game without scoring or assisting and not even having a shot on target, but you could still look at him at the end of the game going, he's a contender for man of the match because of the work he's put in and the opportunities he's allowed everybody else around him. I want to talk about Ben Godfrey in a sec as well, Tom, and then Cenk Tosun, because I think we have to talk about Cenk Tosun ultimately, because it looks like he's going to be playing tomorrow. I've seen a couple of people on Twitter say throw Ellis Sims in, and as soon as I seen Ellis Sims' name mentioned on the bench on Saturday, I thought this is going to go one or two ways here. If we are battering these 6-0 with 25 minutes to go, Ellis Sims might get 7 minutes at the end of the game, but we are very unlikely to be battering them with 25 minutes to go. And as soon as it went to like half time, I just and people were saying, I'll take Tosun off, put Sims on. I knew Sims ain't going to get anywhere near this side in this current form. A, he's not got the experience, and B, we're struggling with Premier League proven players out there. If anything, we're bringing on a Decore, which we ended up doing, and ideally I don't think Decore would have I don't think Carlo would have wanted to put Decore on ideally. If Calvert-Lewin had been on the bench, he'd have probably come on. Same with Richarlison. But again, like I said, I do want to go into talking about Ben Godfrey and Cenk Tosun in a moment. Let's get into the live comments before we do so. If you're enjoying the stream, by the way, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second if you're new. Don't forget to subscribe as well. Like I said, we will have the game preview to tomorrow's Premier League fixture against Wolverhampton Wanderers. That'll be up a little bit later on tonight. Uden says Calvert-Lewin blow. Yeah, certainly is. Gutters, happy 60th birthday to Toffee legend and current manager of my local football club, Minnesota United. Happy birthday, Inchy. Spot on. Uden says Alan update. Well, the update is Carlo has said that he expects him to be back within the next 10 to 15 days. I don't think that means back in first team football, as in playing in the Premier League in 2 weeks. I think that more means back in first team training with everybody getting ready to sort of get his way back. But again, you never know. Look, I didn't expect Luca Dean to be fit for the game on Saturday, and ultimately Carlo come out on the day before in his press conference and said, yeah, he's fit and he'll play, which was, I think, a surprise to a lot of us. Ewan says our Premier League tip to Aston Villa has been put back a day. It certainly has. It's now on Sunday rather than Saturday. Another day's rest. Not that it meant much. When we had more days rest for the West Ham game.
Play it on Friday.
I know, yeah, let's play it on Wednesday. Bloody hell, might do better. God says not another 6 a.m. game, but I'll live with it to support that Soffies is right, God. That's the type of mentality we like to see. Liam says, hey, Cam, love the vids, mate. Do you know how aliens are light years in front of us in brain power? That's how James is in front of Salah in ability. There you go, nice. Ham Eggs Rodriguez says, Cenk Tosun on the right wing. Near Def says Everton 1-2-1, get in there. Philip says afternoon, gents, afternoon, Phil. Eugene says prediction for the Wolves game. He's going 4-1 to Everton. Bloody hell. If it's 4-1, mate, I think the instant match reaction will just be 20 minutes of me doing the pigeon dance. Raymond says, hey everybody, and Near Def says true, and Hernandez says, hello all. It was a tough watch, but we got the win in the end. It's now makes me nervous going into the next match lineup. It's next match with essentially the same starting lineup. We'll talk about the Wolves game towards the back end of the stream and stuff, because again, the easy sort of thought process is, oh my god, Tosun's going to play against Wolves and he wasn't great, Bernard might play and, this, that and the other. But again, what have we seen with Everton Football Club recently is that, look at the game against Burnley, we were dreadful. We were absolutely dreadful. Leeds, we were really poor. We turn up against Chelsea. We turn up in a December period when people are going, we'll get no points out of these games. We could be in a relegation fight after this. And we bang 12 points out of 12. We win every Premier League game in December. And you look at that and, okay, we played Arsenal, who were poor at the time. But again, they were due a win. And they showed that 2 weeks later when they beat Chelsea. We beat Chelsea, who were on good form at the time. We beat Leicester away from home, which is a very tough game. We beat Sheffield United, who again, oh my god, they've not won a game all season. Even more the reason as to why classic Everton would turn up and gift them it, but we didn't. So you just don't know what you're going to get with Everton ultimately at the moment, and that's probably our biggest problem, is that inconsistency. And like Tom said, the season is on a knife edge. It could go one or two ways and you can't predict it.
I think just on the December things, I think Ancelotti come across the perfect system, didn't he?
Yeah.
For them teams. Now he's going to have to find another way to do that without Lewin and things like that. So listen, for short, he's sort of a bit of a tinker man in here. Ancelotti, he likes to change his formations. He likes to have different systems that are available. And listen, hopefully he can find something. I mean, I know it's probably the dreaded doubt of thinking, we could get battered here, but you've got to have faith. And let's hope. Listen, a draw will do us.
Yeah.
A draw will do us, and then we're away against Villa, aren't we?
Villa, on Sunday.
And have they got a lot of players out for that, or will they be back for that?
I don't know why it's being moved a day. I just know it's being moved. I might have missed it. I don't know if it's being moved because of the tests, because I know they were due to play Tottenham as well, and that's being moved, or because their players will then be fit with an extra day's isolation. I'm not entirely sure. But one thing's for sure is that they won't be as obviously match fit as they would usually be, because obviously they've missed a couple of weeks. But ultimately, again, Villa's under 23s the other day. I looked at and I thought there's a bit of energy in that midfield there.
Well, when they went 1-1 with Liverpool, I thought we play these in a few weeks as well. You know what I mean?
We're even fearing Villa's under 23s, bloody hell.
I know. Well, Davies and Gomez will be just chasing absolute shadows, won't they?
Mate,
so that'll be. I know, but listen, hopefully they are a little weakened, and they're going to be, aren't they? For not training and self-isolate, they're not going to have a strong team out, hopefully.
No.
But listen, if you get 4 points out of them next 2 games, I'll take it right now.
Yeah.
You've just got to stay. You just got to stay in the mix.
Yeah, you've got to add some consistency ultimately at the end of the day. And again, it's a really weird season. I think there's something like 4 points divided in 10 teams or something like that.
Well, exactly. We could after these 2 games, we could end up 11th.
Yeah, or first.
Exactly. So it's just such a crazy season. But you just hope that these squad players that we've got that are not turning up for us aren't a detriment to it, because it would be bad to see sort of the team and the way we started and the way this season's gone so far. Really, I mean, we were nearly into a semi-final and things like that, weren't we? So it has gone well. It's gone better than last season. We can see progression.
Yeah.
You just don't want them to fall away from Europe, because if they do, and they do come to that 8th, 9th or 10th, you are thinking, well, we are like at least 2 seasons away to even start having the conversation about Champions League and things like that, aren't we?
Yeah. Spot on, I agree. Well, back into the game then. There wasn't a lot to talk about, hence why I'm just picking out individual players. Ben Godfrey slotted in at centre-half. Not the first time, because we have seen him in a defensive 3 as a centre-back, but pretty much the first time in a back line of a 4 as a centre-half. What did you make of his performance then? Obviously, I think he's been fantastic since he's joined Everton Football Club. Not just his level of performance, but his level of professionalism as well, in terms of just, wherever he's told to play, he plays, and he plays at 110%. And again, we spoke, I think it was last week, Tom, about Ben Godfrey, screaming at players and pointing and really showing that he's got that will to win. He wears his heart on his sleeve, etc., etc. What did you make of him slotting in his more natural position at centre half on Saturday?
I mean, yeah, he shows a play like a player who was just getting adjusted to being back to where his normal position was, didn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, he's played across the back 4 now, and I think he's only really played for Everton in the league once, probably twice at centre back.
Yeah. I'm
just getting it up now. Yeah, twice at centre back. One was against Fulham, one was against Leeds.
In a 3.
So, listen, you need these players, and these players like him are very, very good for squads.
Yeah.
He can play centre half. He can play right back. Now we know he can slot in at left back, and then I'm pretty confident he could play in centre midfield as well as a deep defensive midfielder. So he's going to be a very smart asset for the club. Whether I'm starting to look at it now and think whether he can sort of cement a place down as his own.
Yeah,
is another situation.
It's going to be difficult.
Exactly, but for him, he ultimately will play a lot of games due to the fact of his versatility.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing to have in the squad. It's not a bad thing to say he might not in the end be his first team player.
Yeah.
Starting 11, to start every game. But when he does come in, he will put a shift in, and he'll be very valuable to the team going forward.
Yeah, spot on. I completely agree. He's definitely the type of player that we need. He's versatile. He can play in multiple different positions, and he plays at a decent level in multiple different positions as well. You need players like that. Like Tom said, you can't just have players that are so one-dimensional to, I'm a left winger and I can only play in left wing. And if you've got to change your formation because someone's injured, unless I'm playing in left wing, I ain't good enough. And that's not aimed at anyone specifically, but you need players that can adapt, that can play in different positions, that can play left back one week and put in a decent performance. And okay, you mightn't get the attack and threat that you get from your number one left back, but that's understandable. I think when Ben Godfrey first went left back against Leeds, I think it was when Fabian Delph was taken off, and then ultimately, or it might have been against Burnley, and then ultimately against Chelsea, I don't think anybody expected them to be throwing in deliveries like Luca Dean and getting 2 or 3 assists every game and doing all of that. We didn't expect that. What we expected was a solid defensive performance, and the hope was that he'd be able to keep his shape and he'd be able to do well there, and that's exactly what he did. It's exactly what he's done when he's gone at right back, and he's done it at centre half, and you need more players like that, don't you? And I want to talk about something, Tom, before we go into talking about Cenk Tosun, and it's the central midfield position for Everton at the moment. Obviously, Alan is now, you'd probably say maybe 3 weeks away from being fit and ready to play in the Premier League and ready to start games of football. So in the next 3 weeks, obviously, we've got Wolves tomorrow, Villa at the weekend, and then I think we play a couple more games in between then. Ben Godfrey and Mason Holgate have been 2 names thrown about to potentially move up into the central midfield position. Now, we know Mason has played there before, albeit only, I think, a game, maybe 2 games.
Yeah.
I think a lot
he
of...
was once.
I think when people are talking about it, I think people sort of think that he's played there a lot more than he has.
Yeah,
he's played one game.
One good game.
And he was very good, to be fair, there. But it's one game. I know from a bit of research leading into Everton signing Godfrey that he played near enough a full season at central defensive midfield for Shrewsbury on loan. Is either of those 2 players some players that you'd look at and you'd think, right, okay? For me, it's a mad one, because you've got Tom Davies. Ultimately, our midfield tomorrow will probably be Tom Davies, Andre Gomez / Gylfi Sigurdsson and Abdoulaye Doucouré. Now, on Saturday, we were shown against the poor Championship side, again, no disrespect to Rotherham, but a struggling Championship side that Tom Davies and Andre Gomez just aren't quick enough. They're certainly not going to be quick enough tomorrow night. Okay, Gylfi Sigurdsson's done okay, hasn't necessarily got an awful lot of pace, and off the ball doesn't really, he's not massive, he's not first to every ball, is he? He puts in an effort usually, but he's not first to every ball. Decore, no issue with, does his job. So when Alan is absent from this Everton side, aka now, Ben Godfrey and Mason Holgate, either one of those players, somebody that you look at and think, why don't you just move them up? But certainly given the conundrum that Carlo now has with both of them, by the way, is that he's probably looking at this side tomorrow going, okay, Dean plays left back, which is fine, because ultimately he's our best left back and his creativeness is so desperately needed. It's probably going to be Mina and Keane at centre-half, which again, can't really complain with. Mina come on the other day and solidified everything. Michael Keane's been brilliant. Happy birthday, by the way. It's his 28th birthday today. And it's either going to be Holgate or Coleman at right back. I'd probably edge me bets that it'll be Seamus Coleman, because he's the experienced, he's the only natural right back, and he's the captain of the club. Given that leaves Ben Godfrey and Mason Holgate without a place in the side, do you look at either of them and think, well, why don't we move them into the centre of midfield and then take out a Davis or a Gomez or somebody that clearly hasn't got the energy to do a job there? Or do you just think, keep them as they are defenders and put up with the sort of crap until Alan comes back and hope that Tom Davies puts in a performance like he did a couple of weeks ago?
No, I agree. I think it's the right time to try something, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, with the likes of Gomez and Davies, I mean, Davies is in and out. He did play very well against Sheffield United ultimately, but he's a tough one, isn't he? Bit of an enigma really, Davies. You think he's going to do there, and then sometimes he just puts in an absolute stinker.
Yeah.
And he gets absolute pelters, doesn't he? Because when he's bad, he's really bad, isn't he? And so, listen, Godfrey to me could potentially play the Decore role, just on the basis of seeing him. You could see him comfortable on the ball. He's got the work rate, because you see how and he does the runs up and down the wing with the ball. He's done that quite a few times in matches now, where he's just absolutely legged it, hasn't he, for 30, 40 yards.
Yeah.
And you think, where's that come from?
Like a steam train, isn't he?
Yeah, well that but you want that.
Yeah.
Definitely. And if you could do that in centre midfield, that becomes a massive asset. So I wouldn't be surprised if I see Godfrey, and I wouldn't be surprised if you see Holgate, because Holgate's in that position where you don't know whether he's big enough to be a centre mid, but you don't know whether he's good enough on the ball to be a defensive midfielder.
Yeah.
So he's in sort of two minds with. Myself personally, I'm sort of two minds with Holgate. So you might as well try it. You might as well give them the opportunity against these teams who aren't not Manchester United. They're not Arsenal.
Yeah.
It's Wolves, and Wolves is a very good team, but work rate and legs in midfield get you a long way.
Yeah.
Maybe not for 5 or 6 games where it sort of comes to the forefront where we go, well, he can't really progress the ball, or passing wise he can't do it, but for specific games like the Wolves game tomorrow, why not try it?
Yeah.
Because we're down to the bare bones. So if Lucas Dean's going to be playing left back, you've got Coleman right back, you've got probably our best back line there playing tomorrow.
Yeah.
So why not try things? Why not try it?
That's it.
It's worth it, isn't it?
It's worth the chance. But I suppose we sort of sit here, don't we, as fans, saying why not try it? But whether Carlo thinks, look, I'm just gonna keep it as it is, and then clearly show that the weaknesses in the squad.
But you've seen him that he's tried Holgate and Godfrey left back and right back. So that was a more a surprise to me than if they played them in centre midfield together. Yeah,
true. No, I agree. I agree completely.
So, you could really, I mean, I think hopefully Richarlison's back. You could see a front three of Richarlison, James Rodriguez, and Iwobi.
Yeah, with Richarlison as a striker.
Yeah, you probably, and you are going to see Gylfi Sigurdsson, aren't you?
Yeah.
See, Gil, you're just going to see it. So maybe, or you go with Godfrey Holgate and put Decore in that.
Yeah, Well, I was just about to talk about Decore because it would if you put Godfrey in the sort of Decore-esque role of sitting in front of the defence and ultimately doing that work that Decore's had to do since Alan's been out, because Alan usually does it, you then give Decore this freedom to be more of an attacking player. And look, we've seen within 20 minutes of him coming off the bench on Saturday that James plays that through ball to him, and it's a really tidy finish, and a lot's being made of the pass from James, and I admit I've made a lot of the pass from James and not necessarily the finish from Decore, because it's a wonderful pass. He just completely threads it through and it takes out about 4 or 5 Rotherham players. But it's from a central midfielder who we haven't really seen much going forward from. It's a really tidy finish, and if you can get Decore playing in that sort of little bit further forward role, and he's making the passes and he's getting in them areas and he's getting on the edge of the box, he's got the ability, and he's shown it for Watford, he's got the ability to put the ball into the back of the net. He's a big presence in the opposition box and going forward, and whilst we're lacking a presence in Dominic Calvert-Lewin tomorrow, we may be desperate for a presence like an Abdoulaye Decore. I'm not saying he'll play up front, but I just mean if he plays behind the ultimate striker, be it Richarlison or Cenk Tosun, and he can get into those areas where the ball's coming in the box and he can get on the end of it like he did against Fulham, or it's falling to him on the edge of the box. He's a good finisher, isn't he? I actually think we're lacking something with Decore being a bit more defensive. Not because he's not good enough defensively, because he does the work rate, but we spoke last season, towards the back end of last season, about what we desperately need, and me and you both sat down and said we lack goals from anywhere in the team other than Richarlison and Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Nobody else scores. We were looking at that last season, and I think Bernard was our highest goal, or it might have even been Yerry Mina as our highest goal scorer behind Calvert-Lewin and Richarlison. I think he scored 50% of his goals within 2 minutes in the Watford game, and that's not good enough whatsoever. And Decore scored 2 goals this season, and granted, you probably say, well, we should have more from him, but I don't think that's necessarily his fault. I think he's been asked to play the Alan role a little bit more since Alan's been out, and that's fair enough because Alan brings so much. But do you agree with me? Do you think we're missing something by not letting Decore sort of go a bit forward and play that more of an attacking role?
Yeah, well, if you look at what he's done for the last 6 months at Watford, he was playing that attacking mid role.
Yeah.
So he has got the ability in that attacking mid to threaten in the final third. See, my thoughts are, if you are going to play Godfrey and Holgate, then let them sit and be sort of like a double pivot kind of role.
Yeah.
Where they don't really go stretching. I mean, Godfrey at times potentially, and you let Holgate just sit in front of it a little bit, not in a back three in a sense, but just a little bit, maybe like 5-10 yards in front, where he can shift to left or right to cover space.
Yeah.
But in my thought is that you could sort of attack Wolves in the sense of, if you've got the likes of Decore, Richarlison and Iwobi up front necessarily, and then you've got James Rodriguez trying to play them with runners off him, it's very threatening, isn't it? I mean, we know that the Premier League is pace and power.
Yeah.
So if you can sort of get Decore going with Richarlison up front, then isn't it? It shows threatening outlooks, doesn't it?
Yeah. Spot on.
Where if you had Tosun and Sigurdsson, that to me is so comfortable that when defenders are defending or playing the game, they want to see it all in front of them. Yeah. They want to see that picture. When you've got players running behind you and they've got a turn on the sides and they've got so much other variables to think of.
Yeah.
So if Richarlison is up to the speeds of things, and hopefully he is, and his speed will be threatening, and then you've got Decore running off him. Yeah. It holds and possesses a really dangerous front two, really.
Yeah.
And listen, you get the best out of James Rodriguez.
Yeah. Spot on.
I don't think you'll get the best out of James Rodriguez if you've got Gylfi Sigurdsson and Cenk Tosun playing up front.
No.
You're just not going to see it.
No.
And if that is the case, and you do see Sigurdsson and Tosun, who, let's be honest, they haven't got the legs, have they?
No, not a chance.
The writing's pretty much on the wall for me.
Yeah. And Wolves will be able to sniff that out very, very early on.
Sorry, mate.
No, go on.
It's just when you look at Wolves as well, they're quite youthful going forward. They've lads in who are, like we say, development wise, but they've potentially got world class young players playing up front.
Yeah.
And it's not just that; it's the speed and the pace that they're going to be playing at. And if we're going to go there and try and play this counter-attacking football, then you might as well just pack up and go home if you've got Tosun and Sigurdsson up front.
Spot on. And I also think with Godfrey and Holgate sitting in front of that defensive line, it sort of does similar to what Holgate and Godfrey did as left back and right back, as ultimately they're there to sort of defend, and they've got energy, they've got legs, they'll get about, they'll throw challenges in, they'll act like that wall in front of the back line, and hopefully give the back line, quite an easy day, and help out the full backs as well. And then you've got, I honestly do think, like you said, I think we're missing a trick by having the Decore sat so deep, because I think he's got so much to offer going forward. And as much as the pass from James Rodriguez was just absolutely unbelievable the other day, the finish is a very, very tidy finish from Abdoulaye Doucouré. And
yeah, I think with Doucouré though, he's the only one who can do that Alan roll.
Yeah, but that's the point.
Like we've got no one else. Like, so if we say for example Gabaman was back, maybe would have seen that.
Yeah.
But because Gomez and Davies just aren't to the standard or level that we want, or they don't even fit the roles that Ancelotti needs, really. You've got to play Doucouré there, and he's that much of a good footballer that he can play the Allen role, he can play the box to box role, and he's shown it, he can play the advanced midfielder role.
Spot on. Do you think then maybe Godfrey or Holgate could do the Allen role potentially?
I think Holgate could.
Yeah.
I think listen, I know it's on one game, but Holgate, that looks like that type of player that a defensive mid role looks like going forward in his career will suit him a lot more better than playing centre back. I just don't think he's got the physical and sort of height, in a sense, but the physicality of a centre half. I mean, you compare Holgate and you compare Godfrey, and you'd think Godfrey was 3 foot bigger than him, and he's just not. They're probably roughly an inch. I think Godfrey may be an inch bigger, or the similar size. Do you know what I mean? I think they're both 6 foot. So you just wouldn't necessarily think that, would you, looking at the pair of them?
No.
So for me, I mean, but as well though, Holgate's got the football brain, as in passing wise, to play that defensive midfield role. So let's see. Listen, it's no time better than the present when you've got probably your best players out for the game to try and work something out. I mean, it's a free hit, isn't it?
That's it. It's a free hit. Ultimately, that's it. And I don't think anybody would have any complaints if Godfrey and Holgate played in the centre of the midfield tomorrow. I want to talk about Cenk Tosun, and then we will get in the live comments in a moment. By the way, big thanks to everybody for joining us live. If you are enjoying, please do hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel as well. It only takes a second. Cenk Tosun obviously started this game, which was expected. Well, it was known because Carlo Ancelotti come out and said he would be starting with Dom. At the time, it seemed like Dom being rested, but obviously it was because he'd picked up an injury. Within the first 8 minutes, he'd got a goal, really tidy chip for me. I don't want to talk about the inevitable, and I know some people are going to put in the comments because it's being clarified by the club and the player, and the FA have investigated it, and it have found no further action according to Ancelotti. Let's just go off his performance. He scored a good goal, like I said. It's fed into him really well, to be fair. You'd expect your striker to finish from there. It's a tidy chip. And then the second goal, I actually think is a decent finish as well, at a time which would have saved every single Evertonian half an hour of more boredom. But it was given offside because of spray on can hair by the looks of things. But What did you make of him then? Did you sort of think it's an expected performance? He took a couple of chances against a championship side, and he didn't really do much else. Or do you sort of think, well, again, okay, he didn't do much else, but he didn't really get much other service, and we've had the same arguments about Calvert-Lewin recently. Ultimately, he's not good enough, is he, to be a backup striker going forward? But what did you sort of make of his performance and him being given that chance?
I just thought he was okay. I didn't really think he didn't really impress me to a point where I'd think, oh yeah, I can't wait for him to play again. I mean, or I'm totally wrong on him. He didn't really do much. I think in the first three minutes of the second half, he sort of picked it up. Rotherham give him loads of space, and he sort of just turned on it and played a Wobian. And I think that's about what he done, really. I can't really think of anything else apart from the goal, what he done. I mean, the thing is, when you're playing in the Premier League, you've got to defend from the front. You've got to have work rate. You've got to have it. You've got to have people running in behind, and you've got to have people running in the channels, and that's what Calvert-Lewin does. This lad plays back to goal and sort of wants it to feet, and then wants time to turn and things like that. And we just haven't got that, have we? I mean, he doesn't look like he certainly isn't. He certainly isn't a striker that'd turn on the ball and go threaten the defensive line in terms of going to run past players. Yeah, I just thought he was okay. I mean, I thought James Rodriguez made him look a bit better than what he was.
Yeah.
Because Rodriguez was just finding him every 2 minutes, weren't he? And listen, if he thinks you're going to get 5-10 yards in the Premier League, you're surely mistaken. And it's the cards that we've been dealt with by Sam Allardyce, unfortunately, and we're suffering for it, aren't we? I mean, when Moise Keane went, and that was a red flag in my head. I thought, well, why is he? If he's going, then who've we got?
Yeah.
Like, this is what we were saying in the summer, weren't we? And you think, that's just one thing that I don't like there, really. And I think we were saying at the time, what if Calvert-Lewin gets injured? Yeah. And now we're looking at it thinking, well, Richarlison might play there, but Richarlison might be injured.
We're in that situation.
Exactly.
The day has come.
The inevitable is happening. So, listen, he might not play. We might be surprised and see what happens. But I think he will play, and I think we'll find out why he's not even close to Everton, and why a lot of people like myself and that don't want him at the club and want that swift transition period where he does go to West Brom or get somewhere else completely away from the club.
No, I agree. There's a point, I think, in the second half where, and again, to be fair to Cenk Tosun, he took his goal well in the first half. It was a tidy finish, and he took his goal that was disallowed well in the second half. But there was a point in the second half, I think it was like 70, 80 minutes in, where his name got mentioned, and by this point, Ancelotti had made about 19 changes, about 15 changes to the team, and his name got mentioned, and I just thought, I actually forgot he was on the pitch. In fact, I forgot he was playing, to be fair. And I wrote down in my notes today, I was doing the notes to obviously the stream, and the first note I wrote down was started well, Gordon, brilliant finish over the keeper, and then I had to cross it out and went, no, it was Tosun who scored over the keeper. And that was because ultimately during the game he didn't do anything other than the goal and the second goal, which again you could say, well, he got a chance and he scored it, what more do you want? But I think like Tom said, if he plays tomorrow, we're really going to see the reason as to why he isn't playing in the Premier League.
I was the same. I had to go re-watch his highlights because I was like, what did he do apart from the goal?
Yeah, that's it.
Like I had to really think. My mum was totally blanking what he did, so I went on my White Scout and had a look. And I was like, I looked at it and I was like, he had 3 shots on target. He had 3 shots and 1 was on target. Yeah. And he had 2 dribbles and he only made 1 successful, 50% of it. Now, and then four touches in the box.
It's not enough, is it? There's a reason as to why Ancelotti hasn't done what we've needed him to do, and that's take Calvert-Lewin out for 2 or 3 games and say, you sit there and we'll put Tosun in. There's a reason why Tosun's only coming in when it's forced.
Because, listen, I mean, when you think about it, I'd like to ask fans this: who would you rather have? Cenk Tosun coming on or Oumar Niasse? I know that's a horrendous question, but like, I'd rather have Niasse.
That is a horrendous question, that.
I thought Niasse showed far better than what he did. Listen, Niasse was absolutely woeful as a footballer.
His effort was there.
At least he's shown work rate, and listen, he gave Koeman an extra few weeks in his managerial career.
True.
This lad does nothing.
True. Very.
Do you know what I mean? So, like, I'm not saying I would have Niasse back or anything like that. Let's just get that clearly out the way.
See, the pelters coming flying there.
Yeah, well, but like, who genuinely would you rather have coming off the bench?
I agree. And Whammy says Niasse every time in the comments.
Well, that's what I mean. But to me, this lad brings nothing. Yeah. Like, he's detrimental to attack. Like, it's very specific way of playing with him. You've got to get the ball to his feet, and then you've got to have wide players out wide because he's spraying it either left or right.
Yeah.
That's what he does, and then it takes him about 5 minutes to get into the box. So you've got to play sort of like a 4-4-2 with like a quick runner behind him, sort of like like an Andy Johnson type player.
Spot on.
And then you've got to have the likes of like Walk. That's why Walcott brought, because he's quick, he's pacey on the wing. That's the sort of style you've got to play. You've got to change the whole philosophy of the style of play you've got just to suit one player. It's crazy.
Yeah. Spot on.
So that's what I'm saying. I mean, I hope. Yeah.
People are agreeing. Philip says agree. It would be Nias. Everton Bocce says Nias all day. King Nias all day. Wimmy says at least Nias runs about like a loon. If only we had Moise Keane now. Well, it's perspective, isn't it?
I mean, with Keane, he just didn't want to be at the club. And let's be honest, young lads shocked to the system, weren't they? Thought he was going to be an absolute wonder kid coming from Juventus. Thought he was the next big thing in Juve. Absolute culture shock at Everton not getting his game time, and then Big Dunk decides to just absolutely embarrass him at Old Trafford, didn't he? So
writing on the wall.
I mean, but it was from that point you thought no way in the world he was going to play again. Yeah. And fair play to him, he come back, he stuck at it. You heard no rumours or no things about him being disruptive or something like that. He just got his head down and he just wanted to go. I mean, I've heard things of like Ancelotti does rate him, but he just doesn't want to be at the club. And listen, he's doing very well at PSG, isn't he? We've spoke about it before, and let's hope he makes us a lot of money.
Yeah. Spot on. Well, we'll get back into the live comments then, and then I want to talk about Niels Nkounkou before we finish up. Tom obviously made an appearance off the bench, and I was actually quite impressed with him. Semi says Niasse is no Walcott. Jab says we have Tosun, lol. Where are we then? Jab says, well, I never seen him injured in the last game. Not sure he's on about that one. Jab says, I don't believe DCL is injured. I think Carlo was given a rest. I think he's injured because I think he'd be in there if he wasn't injured because we've got no other real option. But it might be a case of he could play, but he desperately needs that rest now to sort of recuperate. Whammy says it was sort of inevitable, overplayed, defo, DCL, spot on. Philip says, keep your kit handy, Cam, you're in with a shout. Got the shorts and socks ready there with the little towel and the shin pads on me couch, ready to just fly in. I'm only 5 minutes away. I can jog up there as well. I'm that fit. I'm not really. I'd last 2 minutes and then I'd be puffing out my arse like Tosun. Jab says DCL hamstring. Ian says, yeah, exactly. He isn't quite up to scratch because of fitness, not criticising him personally, just thinking of the team as a whole. I think that's about Luca Dean. Semi says, Cam forgot Tosun was even at the club. Jab says, we need to sell Davis, Kenny and Gomez will be my first three out the door. Whammy asks if DCL is injured. Yes, he won't feature tomorrow through hamstring injury. Carlo said it's not too serious, but it'll keep him out tomorrow. Semi says, spot on, we don't have enough depth up front. Philip says the problem is we have no one else. He's not good enough, but he'll have to do. Talking about Tosun. Semi says Dean's coming off a major injury, still not entirely fit, to be fair. Whammy says he would play Holgate right back, Keane Godfrey centre back and Dean left back. Semi says no Mina, and he says no for me. Keane goes right centre back and Godfrey goes left centre back. Wolves have fast little effers. Can't say that, get demonetised, but you know what I mean. Ian says, I thought Dean struggled in the second half, so perhaps Godfrey should carry on at left back. I would give Holgate a go in midfield as well, as he did well there last year for a spell, didn't he? But he played one game there, and he did do really well against Manchester United. But again, like I said, he played one game there. Semi says, Keane, Mina and Holgate is a solid trio, and Lewis says, right, Cam, what is your opinion on Sigurdsson? I say we sell him. If he's a waste of time, he's just points 99% of the time. If we can get money for him, then I'd sell him tomorrow. But I don't think we're going to get much money for him, to be perfectly honest. Everton Bot says, let's be honest, if Richie was fit and Moise Keane was still in Everton, Richarlison would play. Probably, yeah, but at least we'd have the option. And Semi says, we sound like nutters again with Cam reading the comments backwards. And I like to do that every now and again just to make it seem so out of context. Tom, Niels Nkounkou obviously featured off the bench. Another name that people have been throwing about. Why isn't he playing? Why isn't he featuring? I think Niels Nkounkou probably sat there on Friday listening to Carlo's press conference with his head in his hands when he realised Luca Dean was back to fitness, because this would have been a game that he would have started. I have a really sort of mad and contradictory, and I've said this loads, football is, we just contradict ourselves all the time, football fans. We're just hypocrites. I say one thing one day, and the next day I'll completely go against it. And in this occasion, I said after the game, I think Niels Nkounkou should be getting more game time, certainly off the bench, certainly in the last 20 minutes of games. Not as a left back to replace Luca Dean, but further forward, maybe as a left winger. You know, when we're bringing on Bernard, who isn't doing anything, or we're bringing off a Iwobi, who hasn't done anything, or we're maybe looking at Gordon and thinking, well, you've struggled last. Why not bring on Nkounkou a little bit further ahead of Luca Dean? Because what I saw on Saturday, Tom, and I know what the argument is, well, it was only against championship opposition, and I know the argument for Nkounkou is he's only ever done it against championship opposition, or lower league opposition, but he hasn't had the chance in the Premier League. And what I saw was a player that picked the ball up, ran, and his delivery into the, I don't know if you agree with me, obviously you know a lot more about this than I do, but his delivery in the box just seems so good every single time. It mightn't fall to an Everton player every single time, but it's fast, quick balls into the box, and it causes issues. And all them balls need is someone to put the toe on it in the right direction, and it's causing massive issues to any team. How impressed were you with Nkounkou coming on Saturday? And ultimately, do you agree with me? Do you think he's somebody that we should be looking at to bring on in the last 10 or 15 minutes, even at Premier League games, to just run at opposition?
Yeah, I mean, attacking wise, he was very impressive, but he's always been like that. And there's like Carabao. He's probably played every Carabao Cup game, hasn't he? Played at Fleetwood, played against Salford, played against West Ham. He was all right against West Ham. He thought that was the first time he played up against the Premier League opposition. And listen, the levels, the higher you go up, the more competition and more sort of less space you're going to get to do things like he was doing against Rotherham. But yeah, I thought he was very impressive. I mean, he just shows he's got a natural ability going forward, hasn't he? But it's the whole, can he do it defensively? And like you say with Gordon, can he do it for 90 minutes at a high level and even off the ball be very well? So, but isn't it, if sort of Ancelotti doesn't trust him doing the left back and doing what Luca Dean brings to the team, then let's just try it.
There's no harm in bringing someone on who's just going to run at players and throw balls into the box, isn't he?
Well, exactly. He's sort of like that winger type that you're missing, aren't we? He's sort of just straightforward, direct, takes someone on, it's the byline and crosses. Yeah. That's ultimately what we haven't got as in our wingers. We've got Iwobi, we've got Richarlison, but Richarlison likes coming inside and attacking, going straight at. Iwobi sort of does the similar thing. He doesn't really hit the byline at pace, really. Iwobi sort of mirrors what Richarlison does, and then you go to the squad thing, you think, well, Bernard is hopeless. We've all given up, and I think ultimately Ancelotti's give up on Bernard. And then you've got Gordon, who blows hot and cold, but you look at Nkounkou and think, well, that could be another little bit of stroke of genius, couldn't it? Yeah. I mean, if you bring him in for 3 games and we win 1 or 2 of them and get it, you look at it and think that's massive. That's a massive plus to the season. So, listen, ultimately, we could get to a point where we have to play him there.
Yeah, true. And
if Bernard goes,
we've got no other option, really.
If we got,
true, that's it.
Like, you know what I mean? If Richarlison's injured or is injured, then is Gordon going to play there? But then if Gordon's not doing well and then he comes off, who's going to come on then? So it's a bit of a conundrum then, isn't it? So it's not. I'd try it because there's not else there. But if we get to that point where Nkounku's playing left wing, and then you look at it and think, this is bad, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what I mean. And ultimately, the squad depth is really poor. And ideally, you're taking a winger off and you're putting on another winger who's fighting to get into the starting 11 and who's got a lot of quality. I just thought Nkounkou showed a directness, a confidence, and sort of a little bit like, of a inexperienced, carefree, I'm just going to go for it here, I'm just going to give it 100, I'm just going to try and impress. And that's maybe what we thought we'd get from Gordon, and we have had from Gordon at times.
He's very raw.
Yeah, very, very raw. But sometimes that sort of thingy's team's done it because they don't know what to expect. And if he's picking the ball up and running at you with pace and knocking in passion and putting a good delivery in the box, if it's 1-1 tomorrow and with 20 minutes to go, Why not try that? If Iwobi's not playing well, or Bernard, or whoever starts.
What it brings is unpredictability, doesn't it?
Exactly.
And like you say, just touching on the squad, we've got 29 first team players, and we're looking at things like this. Do you know what I mean?
Mad,
it's just it's a very, very huge task Brands has got on his hands. Massive. It is. You've got. I mean, you need players who can play across the front three, can't you? That's ultimately what we need. And listen, play Nkounkou up front for all I care. If it doesn't mean Tosun playing.
Might play in goal.
Yeah. Well, I know I've got issues with Pickford as well. Throw the goal. See what he does there.
Imagine his distribution.
Yeah. It'd be like playing FIFA, wouldn't it? You know, when you press the triangle, and you just run out and you just see Nkounkou running through the old team.
You're playing pro clubs and you stick your mate in goal and he doesn't want to be there, so he tries to do the team. Oh, mate. What has it come to? What has it come to? Let's get into the live comments before we finish up then. Wormy says, partial to a Frygate myself, can't beat a man of war bird. Talking about birds now. That's Everton at the moment. He says, when you say out semi, you mean out in the woods avoiding vehicles with cameras. Eugene says, Richie, breaking news, Premier League confirmed 36 positive tests among players and staff testing 2 rounds from 4th of January to the 10th. Manuel says, we are looking at an offensive line of Golden, Tosun and Iwobi tomorrow. With injuries. Jab says there's nothing wrong with Richie. I think Carlo thinks he's not done enough. We never gave an injury update on him. He just said that's true, he didn't say what's wrong with him, he just said he's got to be tested, to be fair. Manuel says Richie is probably injured. He also says, bro, no DCL available for the Wolves game tomorrow. And Semi says, Gabaman's still out, mate. Yeah, it certainly is. Jab says, this player that I've been linked with, again, I can't pronounce his name, Tom. Moises Casido, is it? Casido. Apparently he's going to Brighton for 5.4 mil.
Moise Casido, yeah. Very, very, very good sounds. Yeah. Very, very good, yeah. Brilliant.
Well, there you go. Maybe we should be in the numbers for him.
Yeah, I mean, very, very, very good player. Can't really say more because of work-wise, but very, very good player.
There you go. Well, I haven't even bid for it. I've got a smile on my face. Apparently Brighton are signing it. Philip says, to be fair, Rotherham did well, constantly at danger. They didn't give us an inch. Wormy says it was 90 minutes and we went 3 centre-backs. He was given a free rein to get forward and did well. But not to say replace Dean or Richie's position, but defo substitute him on. Talking about Niels Nkounkou. Semi says, Niels. Top man, get in there. He was absolutely brilliant, he was. Jab says, Wolves might have a lot of players out. Everton Butcher says, what is a Gabaman? What is a Gabaman? He'll be fit soon, and hopefully when he's fit, I feel really sorry for Gabaman, to be fair, I really do, because ultimately, 2 years of his footballing career have gone, which it's through no fault of his own.
Isn't that a thingy Bob Marley song? I hope you like Gabaman too.
Listen, at the moment, I think the Bob Marley song will probably do more for Everton, but...
No, and listen, with him, that's just heartbreaking, really, for
it is.
very, very promising young footballer to go through the amount of things he's gone through. And listen, you don't really want to blame people, but the door is on an unexperienced manager known as Marco Silva, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, he brought the lad played every game for the Ivory Coast in an African Cup Nations, and his absolute face dropped when in the Crystal Palace game, I think was the first game that he was coming on, and then he plays in the second game and he just his literal hamstring falls off his leg. So it's just a horrendous situation. And listen, he's been out for I think it's 378 days or so.
Yeah, it's a long time.
I mean, it's 307. We bought him in August 2019. I mean, I feel sorry for the lads.
No, I do as well, completely. Semi says, well in, Tom, we do need squad players to put in a shift and do a job. Good to see you back on the channel. He also says, sure, missed the mark on the Delph signing, didn't we? Davis, Gomez, Sigurdsson and Decore, that's not brilliant. Missing Alan massively. Evan Butch says, why did everyone forget about John Joe Kenny? Probably because Carlo doesn't think he's good enough. And Semi says, always love Seamus, one of my favourite Blues, but we've got to get a new starting right back so we can move on. Move him to a sub like Bainesy in his last year. Well, yeah, I think we all know that's the inevitability going forward, but probably going to be one for the summer.
Well, just on that then, when you look at Coleman and John Joe Kenny, if we did go get a first team player, who would you have as the backup?
Coleman, I think.
There you go. So that just shows you what Kenny's thought of.
And then I'd have Aldgate behind Coleman.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, 32, 33-year-olds getting in front of you really shows you what type of level John Joe Kenny's at, doesn't it?
That's it.
And I don't really want to go into like bash Kenny or bash plays, but he just doesn't fit the role of what Everton ultimately wants in a modern day wing fullback, does he? So you've got to move these lads on. I mean, if you get close to 10 million for John Joe Kenny, happy days.
Absolutely. There you go then, we'll finish it up there. If you have enjoyed this one, please do hit that like button. We will be back with the game preview a little shortly. It won't be a live stream, it'll be a video, but it will be up shortly ahead of tomorrow's game against Wolves. A massive thank you to everybody in the live comments as per usual. A massive thanks to Tom for joining us again. Tom, anything to say before we finish up?
Yeah, I mean, I remember, if anyone knows Semi-Pro, the movie, there's a famous poet on there called Jackie Moon, and he's got a song called Love Me Sexy, so I'd just like to shout out Love Me Balassi.
There you go. Happy days. Listen, I'm sure Yannick will be made up with that little one. I know there's been a little bit on Twitter recently about Yannick Balassi and is he piping up again. I just see it now and just turn my phone off and I'm like, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I've seen he wants to just play for... Listen, I said this months and months ago. He'll get found out in the end.
And it has.
It's very unprofessional to be going on Twitter and going, I just want to say, you know what you're causing there.
Yeah, there's only malicious intent, I feel, anyway, with that.
Exactly. I mean, if you wanted to go leave, then leave. Yeah. If football's such like that's all you want to do, then go play for the Breck Road then. You know what I mean? It's just put them on loan there.
Yeah, true. Sure, Marino will have him.
Yeah, I'm sure Taddy's under 12s will have him as well. You know what I mean? Who play on Mossley Hill, I'm sure. Sure they'll have him. I'm going in again.
The details are going in though.
I can't help myself. You know what I mean? But listen, it is what it is with Yannick.
It is.
I mean,
to
be on what 80 grand a week. This is what I'm saying. Like people have got to realise like how bad the sort of job Brands has got to deal with. I mean, Mo Bezic and Balassi is still at our football club.
It's crazy, isn't it?
It's just so this is what I'm saying. So when I turn on and you say maybe we're 2 years, 3 years away from actually being a very, very good team, we are. Yeah. We're just there, and then you're hoping that then you're looking at it now and you think in terms of like Pickford and Sigurdsson who are first team players, you've got to then get them out. Yeah. So it's a massive job, and let's hope we do it.
Spot on. And Andy says, pretty soon we will look to the Flint tropics of our players that keep getting injured. Wim says, Kenny is too average, neither great attacking or defensive downtown. Funky stuff, Malone. Semi says, thanks Cam and Tom, take care. Blues. Near-Def says, we played awful, but who cares, we're through to the fourth round. Ultimately, you're right. Jab says, I'd rather play Sims than Tosun. Don't think we've got much chance of that happening. And Philip says, love me, Yannick. There you go. Big thanks for watching. If you have enjoyed it, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. Like I said, Wolves preview will be up very, very shortly. Big thanks to everybody in the live comments. Really, really do appreciate it. If you're watching this as a YouTube video, leave your thoughts in the comments and we'll get involved with as many of them as possible. Big thanks for watching, and we'll see you soon on the Mighty Blues.